Talk about a little bit about some business ideas that you don't learn in a business school, and you don't learn in an economics class, or you don't learn anywhere except in that, that college of hard knocks when you're out and you try something and somebody looks at you and says, that's not going to work. If I had a nickel, as I used to say, for all the times that, as Chris Berman said, it'll never work, I probably would have been not encouraged to go along because people kept saying it's not going to work, it's not going to work, but we'll talk about that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the innovations that you all take for granted, but ESPN developed over the years. We'll quickly go through some of those. And then we're going to talk about some numbers. You will really enjoy seeing some of these numbers. And as I explain some of them to you, you'll say, I can't believe I pay that much money to watch ESPN, but that's another story. We'll get to that as well. And then, just because it's always kind of fun for me, and so I therefore ascribe that same interest to you, I have a couple of very few pictures that will show you of a then versus now. And I can't believe the difference, and I'm sure that they will be interesting to you as well. But let's talk about what is ESPN all about. I mentioned the fans. How did we get there? I want to show you just a couple of quick, if I can, I got my handy-dandy quick fix here. And, well, what do you know about that? Let's try this again. Well, somebody will tell me how this is going to work pretty soon. And I will move this. Let's try it again. There we go. That's what ESPN is all about. 6 words. And you notice who is centered in those 6 words? You, the sports fans of America. That's the way that we started back in 1979. And we had some hints along the way. For example, sports has become America's most shared human experience, a feeding frenzy, and so on. You'd think that's today, right? That was in Sports Illustrated 1994. ESPN may become the biggest thing in TV since Monday Night Football and nighttime World Series games. That was in 1979, before we even went on the air. People were talking about what's going to happen with this wonderful ESPN idea. Sports everywhere, not going to work. However, along the way, we had enough people convinced that we got some money, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But right now, I'd like to ask you to travel back with me if you can. Those of you who are old enough can travel back literally and remember the night ESPN went on the air. And for those of you who are a bit younger, you'll just have to trust us older folks and come back with us as we see the very first words that ESPN ever uttered on the airwaves of the world. And those words were, if you're a fan, what you'll see in the next minutes, hours, and days to follow may convince you you've gone to sports heaven. Beyond that blue horizon is a limitless world of sport, and right now, you're standing on the edge of tomorrow. Sports, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from ESPN, the Total Sports Cable Network. Wow. You know where those words were spoken, of course, Bristol, Connecticut. Everybody said, where's Bristol? Here we are. We were proclaiming to the world we're going to do this. Nobody had ever done this before. We were the first 24-hour network because of the satellite availability, but people said it couldn't be done. We signed on September 7th, 1979, at 7 o'clock in the evening. We went until 3:30 the following Monday morning. Very first broadcast was 53 some hours long. Now, the networks told us we couldn't do that because at 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern, the networks had decreed you have to sign off, say you've been watching, I used to be one of those announcers who did that, as a matter of fact. I can't remember the exact words, but it was something like, and ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our broadcast day. WWLP is authorized under FCC communication, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for watching, and now our national anthem. They play the national anthem, go to test pattern. I said that earlier today, assuming everybody in the world knows what a test pattern was, and I realized the audience I'm talking to, you have no idea what I'm talking about unless you're over 35 years old. But the networks always signed off at 1 o'clock, and they said we were crazy because who watches television? They had decided that between 1 in the morning Eastern and 7 in the morning Eastern, nobody watches TV. Nobody's awake. Everybody has the same schedule that they do. And our reasoning was, as we began to talk to people around the country, nurses work overnight, emergency people work overnight, lots of people. There are 3 shifts work in factories. Wouldn't it be a great idea, and this is how we had to sell it, wouldn't it be a great idea if, in fact, you could come home at 2:15 in the morning, turn on, catch the scores. So that's what we went ahead and tried to sell people. Well, it wasn't all that easy because you need some money, you need some programming, you need some advertising to pay the bills, you need some customers to play it. And as we go through this, you'll understand what I was talking about people not really catching out of this whole idea. But anyway, we came up with some ideas. We needed, and I've just reduced them to make it very simple to present, facts, because it's a really easy word to remember, right? We needed financing, we needed advertising, we needed some content and the technology to deliver it, and lastly, we needed some subscribers. Because without you, the subscribers, what's ESPN? Not much of anything. Well, on the first issue, financing, we thought this was the greatest idea, as the saying goes, since sliced bread or fire, or take whatever phrase you want. And we went to the first investor, potential investor. I was ready to walk out with a check. I mean, I was just ready. This is so great. I'm going to explain this to you so well. You can't wait to get it. The meeting lasted maybe 5 minutes. He said, "You don't know what you're talking about. It's crazy. It's never going to work." Well, what do you do next? You go back to the next guy and the next guy and so on. So we kept going around. Finally, our 7th investor that we approached was Getty Oil. And when Getty Oil said, "We'll finance it," oh, it's great. Now, the easy answer today when people talk to me, and if we were passing in the hallway or if we were walking down the street and you say, "How do you finance a network like ESPN?" My quick answer, maybe a little bit flip, is $9,000 credit card cash advance, which is true, and $146 million from Getty Oil, which is also true. I think the latter really made it work, but without the former, we wouldn't have even taken the idea to Getty Oil.